How you doing, guys? It's Kevin. I'm back with another little video. We just got done doing the Livy knife, the handle on Livy's knife. And I had went to Cass, West Virginia a little while back. And they have a little craft store right there by the tracks in Cass, West Virginia, where you ride the trains down there. And there was a couple really nice ladies down there, and they actually made the crafts. And man, they did some awesome work. Well, I happened to be down there, and I didn't see the sign that said not to take pictures of the crafts. And I can understand them maybe not wanting people to steal their ideas and whatnot. And that's okay, and I didn't take any pictures. I certainly wouldn't want to share them with anybody because that is their ideas. But anyhow, they asked me about my YouTube channel and asked me what I made, and I said I make just about everything, you know. And they said, well, what do you make your coat hooks out of? And I said, well, I use different things. But I had been using railroad spikes. Now I will do a video on just the railroad spike coat rack, the little hook. Now, I'm going to show you, this is all, you guys have probably seen the video of Livy's knife, and you see all these sticks laying around. Well, these are great little coat hooks. So, you know, this is ash wood. Not too long, this wood will pretty much be extinct. These pieces here you want to get now before they rotten. And then this is a piece of ash wood. My brother has a sawmill, and he had cut a tree up. I gave him a tree, and he gave me a couple pieces of 1x here. And they're just rough cut, but I'm going to clean them up real nice and make some coat hooks for this board. And I think it's going to turn out nice. Now, it's not too much to it. I have some of these insert nuts, and that's what they look like. I'll give you guys a better close-up of them, and we're going to be sticking them inside these coat hooks once we get them all done. We're going to trim them up and take the best part, what we think would make a nice looking coat hook. So let's get to it. I wanted to give you guys a little close-up of some of the stuff, well, the wood and everything that I'm going to be using. Now, I try to get them with knots and, you know, branches sticking off of them. I'm not going to use all these. I'm just going to pick out the best ones. I probably will put 3, maybe 4 on this board. And I'm going to, now this, like I said, this is ash wood, and it's all rough cut. We're gonna sand it down and make it look real pretty. We're going to keep the edge on here. This is where the bark had come off of this side here. Now the bark hasn't come off of here, but I think I'm going to take it off because eventually it's going to fall off anyhow. And then here is the inserts, and they're called insert nuts. And if you look right there, it says 1/4 20 by 20 millimeter. Now that is a standard bolt. So if you find a 1/4 by 20, which you can buy at any hardware store, they should fit inside these. And you know, you're going to have to judge the thickness that you're going to want. Now I have a 1-inch here, and then I'm going to have another 3/4. I think these are 3/4. I may go a little deeper. So you know, you might need maybe a 2-inch bolt, you know, to stick through this. And then I'm going to use some epoxy. That's the epoxy I use on my knives. I'm going to use it to glue these inserts in. We're going to drill holes, and these are actually going to screw in, but I'm going to epoxy them too, because we don't want them coming back out. But we will be able to take our coat hooks off if we want and choose to use them somewhere else or whatever. So it's not really much to this. A couple pieces of board, some of them, and a little bit of epoxy. You're going to need a drill to drill some holes, and I'm going to use a chainsaw, I think, on the edge of these. Somehow, I just want to I don't want just a rough cut right there. If anything, I'd like to have it a little rougher. So, okay, let's get going. Now my first step is I'm just going to trim these up into smaller pieces, especially up here on the front, and then I'll try to measure the length of them, and I'll get them what size I need them. So right now I'm just going to trim these guys up, some of the stuff that we don't need off of them. Okay, now I got all these cut, and I just trimmed off the limbs that were on them, and they're not all the same size, which that's okay, and they all look a little different. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sit down here with my knife, and I'm going to take all the bark off of these, and then I'm going to sand them up. So next step is getting all the bark off of them. You know, it's kind of funny, I was looking at all this wood. There's almost every one of them has a hole down in the center of them. That's weird. This one here even has a hole here, but as it goes to the top, the hole disappears. But hole right down the middle. I didn't know it had that in there. Alright, the only thing I've done is I sit down here and peeled all the bark off of these just with a carpenter knife. I still got a few pieces on there. You guys got to be real careful because I cut my hands I don't know how many times on this stuff. Oh yeah, I got big chunks out and everything, but hey, comes along with doing work, you're gonna get cut. So anyhow, just try to get all the bark. I mean, you probably wouldn't have to take the bark off if you didn't want to, but what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna take these over to the sander and I'm gonna round off all these edges so they don't catch anything like your clothing or anything, or snag on anything. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to round all the edges off, clean them up just a little bit with some sandpaper. So I'll take them to the belt sander and get this big stuff, and then I'll just hand sand them a little bit, and then they'll just be just about ready to put on. Okay, the only thing I've done is just take the rough sandpaper and go over all the edges so they're not sharp. Just rounded them off. Now I could just leave them like this. I think they'd be fine. They actually look pretty neat. But I'm going to scuff them up a little bit with some sandpaper. Just trying to get some, like here's a sharp edge here. You don't want any sharp edges. So I'm just going to scuff them up with a sandpaper. I'm not going to go crazy on them. I think they'll be fine. Alright, got all these sanded down. They look pretty good. We're not going to do too much more to them. I think they're okay. Now I'm going to go out there and cut this off at about 2 foot. And then I'm going to remove the bark. But I'm going to also trim these edges. And I think I'm going to cut them up a little bit with the chainsaw. And maybe burn them. Kind of make them look like they're burnt. Alright, let's see what this thing looks like if we burn it. That don't look too bad. What I might do is sand it all down and just give it a nice layer of the burn, just a light burn on it. Let me turn this thing around, we'll do the other side. It's awful windy today. This is actually the second day of ginseng hunting. I haven't been out yet. So I think burning it's going to be nice, and I'm not going to have that real light color wood on here, and I might scuff over that with a little bit of sandpaper just to take some of the black off, but I think it's going to look good. So we gotta get the bark off this other side here. This wood's pretty dry, so it's not too bad to get the bark off of it. That's going to be our wood. We're going to get it in there and get it sanded down nice and see what we got, and then we'll work on these edges a little bit. I think that's going to look pretty cool. Okay, I got some 50 grit sandpaper on here. We're going to go over this because this thing is super rough. It's rough cut lumber, so we're going to go over it and just clean it up with this rough sandpaper. So I've been sanding on this thing for just a little bit, and I like that black border around there. So what I might do is just burn the outside edge so it almost looks like this thing has a frame around it. Now, when I pulled that bark out, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I'm going to take you up a little closer here. And you could actually see where the worms had ate the bark. The beetle, the bark beetle, had come through there and ate the bark off. See, they killed the tree by just eating on the bark. They didn't hurt the wood. They just ate the bark. I guess that's why they call them a bark beetle. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to burn that and see if I can get those these worm things to stand out. And just leave kind of a black border on this thing. Hard to get it just right. I may have to go over it with a little bit of sandpaper, like I said, just to make everything stand out. But I think I'm going to leave those beetle marks in there because that's what killed the tree. So, and that's why this tree will probably be extinct within the next few years. Won't be no more ash. Okay, I've decided to eliminate one coat hook because I didn't want to get it too crowded. So I'm going to use 3 on there. I thought 4 would be just a little bit crowded. Now I have these measured out 16-inch centers here. So this is 16 inches from this one to this one here. So if you're going to put this on a set of studs, a 16-inch center, I'll be able to drill a hole up here so you can put a screw in the wall, and one up here so you can put a screw in the wall. And I'll show you how I'm going to try to hide them. So we can, I already marked these out where I want each one of these drilled. So I'm going to go ahead and get them drilled in there. This is just a 1/4 inch bit. We're going to be using 20 bolts. We'll drill 1/4 inch posts. Okay, we're going to be working on these guys here. We're going to have to drill a hole in the bottom of these so we can put our little insert nuts in there. I got 1 pack of these open. We're going to be using 3 of them, so I'm going to get 3 of them out. Now if you look on the back of your box, it's going to tell you the size hole you need to drill. In this case, we're going to have to drill 11/32 hole. 3/4 inch deep into the workpiece. So it's going to be 3/4 inch deep in here, 11/32 drill bits. We're going to go ahead and get us a drill bit. So I come over here, I got a nice 11/32 drill bit. And what we want to do is make sure we don't go too much deeper. We don't really want to go much deeper than what our 3/4 inch is. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab a piece of tape, just a small piece of tape, and I'm going to measure out on here 3/4 inch. We're going to at least get as close as we can to that 3/4 inch. We'll go just a little deeper than the 3/4. I don't think it'll hurt anything. Now, So we're actually at 1 inch. So we're a 1/4 inch deeper than what we need to be, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drill a hole. Now this is hard to hold. I was trying to do this because the ladies up there, I think, I want to try to get it to where they can actually make these and use them on different projects. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick it in a vise. I'm not going to take any chances. Now, being as I don't have any wood jaws on here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this thing up in just a rag here, and see if I can snug it up without making, I don't want it too tight, I just want it not to spin. So we're going to drill right in the same hole that's already there. Ooh, be careful, Kevin. It wants to go right down in there. Okay, we should be our... Yep, there's our... We're a little bit over the 3/4, but that's okay. So now we got our hole drilled. We'll go ahead and do the rest of them and get them all drilled out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and mix up a little bit of this epoxy. Now, I went ahead and found a Allen wrench that's going to fit in the end of this. That's what you need. You need a nice little Allen wrench that'll fit right in the end of there. Now, this is probably not a have-to thing, the epoxy that I'm going to put on these. You don't have to put this on here. I'm just going to put it on there just to make sure that I don't have any problem with this thing falling apart or anything. So, it's just the way I'm going to do it. You don't have to do it this way. You can just put whatever you want, or you can just leave them alone. They don't have to have epoxy on them. But to ensure myself that these will stay in here, I'm going to mix up just a little bit of epoxy. And I'm going to put it on the threads. I'm just going to put some right on the threads. Now I don't want a lot on here. I just want enough to make the threads stick down in there nice and tight. Make sure I got that mixed up good. I think it is. Now, like I said, it's not a have-to thing, putting this epoxy on here. So we got 5 minutes to get all these in. So we'll get them in there as quick as we can. You're probably going to need a rag handy because you don't want that going down in that screw hole. Then it may not stick very good, or yeah, your bolt might stick. Never come back out. I'm going to go just below the surface. And I think that looks good. I'll wipe off the rest of that epoxy on there. It don't get down in the threads. And that one's good to go. So let's get another one going here. Put it on the end of our little wrench. Screw it in there. I'll wipe that a little bit more off here. Just going to take that glob off the end. Finish screwing it in. Just below the surface. Should work good. Okay, number 2's done. Let's get number 3. Now this will, like I said, this will just ensure me that it's not going to come back apart. Because I'm probably not going to keep this thing. I'll probably throw it on Craigslist under Morgantown, maybe Crafts or something. If somebody's interested in it, you can go on there and find it. So Okay, now we're going to let them set up for a while before we go putting it together. But like I said, it just takes a standard 1/4 inch 20 threads, 1/4 inch. It's got 20 threads, and you'll have to get the length board or bolt that you need to go through whatever board you put on here, and you want it to just screw up into the end of here. So that's going to be your coat hook. So I think it's going to work out pretty good. So we're going to let these set up, and then we'll come back and get them mounted on, and figure out what else we could do to this thing. Alright, what I'm going to do now is, these are the bolts I'm going to use in the back to hold our little coat hooks on. So what I'm going to do is, I want to countersink these down in this wood, because if this goes against the wall, we don't want it. We don't want these bolts hitting the wall. So I'm just going to use a paddle bit. I want it to go deep enough to where the washer and the head of that bolt will be underneath of down below the wood line. I think that's fine. We'll do all three of them the same. Okay, I went up to Michael's Arts and Crafts there, and I picked up a mirror. This is one of the mirrors you would set down and put a vase on. It's got the beveled edge on it. I just took the little sticky pads off of it, and what I thought I'd do is glue that thing, or epoxy that thing right on there, and then I put a little key hook over there so you could hang your keys on. When you're coming in and out of the door, you could throw your keys up there, and that will hold your keys. Now the last thing I really got to do is be able to put a couple screws on here to hold it to the wall. And I was going to put them on 16-inch centers, because most walls now are 16-inch centers. So I was going to put 2 screws in there. I made a couple of these little plugs, and I thought maybe I could drill it out and put one of these little plugs in there, or whoever buys this thing, I'll give them a few of these little plugs, and then when they put their screw in, you could just tap this little plug down in there. That's what I thought. I mean, it'd still be wood. So I'll give it a try here. I'll show you how I'm cutting these plugs out. Now we are using the $20 drill press. If you've seen my yard sale video, I bought this drill press for like 20 bucks and cleaned it up nice, and man, I'll tell you what, I really like this thing. It's not dirty like my big one, so it works good. So I bought these little bits. Let's see, what are these? They're plug cutters. Just little plug cutters. And there's 3 different sizes. You got 3 different sizes here, and I tried to pick the one that best fit the hole I was drilling. Let me get this piece here, and this cuts my hole. This piece here will cut my hole, and then this thing here will cut the plug to go into that hole. But I noticed they're a little bit tight getting in there, so I took it on the belt sander over there, the little belt sander, and just sanded down enough, and they seem to work okay. And all I got to do is take the drill press, kick it on, and drill a hole. And what this does is just cuts out the plug. Now, see, we have a plug in here. And then what I did, let's see, I have a little screwdriver here. I just took a little screwdriver, stuck it down in the side of here, and popped it out. That gives me a little plug. So I got a little plug. So I'm going to cut a few of these up, because you never know, somebody might lose them. So I'll put a little baggie and put it on them. I'll get at least 4 of them. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole that will bolt this to the wall. This is right above the coat rack, so hopefully the coat will actually hide it a little bit too. Now we'll sand that board off just a little bit. Try to get some of that burrs off the edge of it there. We'll sand it a little bit, and then we're going to be just about ready for some clear. Alright, I got our plugs put in there. They're not, I'm not going to glue these. You don't want to glue these little plugs in. You just want to push them in and try to get the grain to go the same way with the grain of this wood. And leave them stick out. They're not going to hurt anything sticking out. That way you could grab a hold of them and pull your screws out if you need to. They are a little tricky getting in there. I think they're tapered on one end. So now I got all the coat racks on there, and as you can see, they're good and tight. And what I meant by countersinking them in the back is right here. You can see there's no bolt sticking out right here. It's flush. All of them are nice and flush, so we don't have to worry about them sticking out and hitting the wall before the coat rack. So now I'm going to go ahead and clean this up and go ahead and get a coat of clear on it. I think it's ready, and then we'll glue our mirror on and put our little key hook on there. Okay, this is a satin. This is not shiny. It's just a satin clear coat, and it is a water base clear coat, so it'll dry fast. We're just going to give it a couple good coats. This guy should be done. Now you can still see the saw marks in this wood. That don't make no difference to me. I want to know that this is a piece of wood that was cut, and you can see the saw marks in it and all the pretty grain. This is a good looking piece of wood. I'm going to leave this knot. I'm going to leave that knot. I'm going to be putting some epoxy on there. I'm not sure whether the epoxy will stick better to this or it'll stick better to that wood. So I'm going to leave a little empty spot in there right around that knot, because that's about where I'm going to be putting that mirror. Alright, we got 2 coats of clear on this thing now. We're going to go ahead and epoxy this mirror on. We're not going to want to take this mirror off probably ever again. So we're going to go ahead and get it epoxied on there. I got my little key holder mounted on there. Everything's looking pretty good. So we're just going to put a glob of that right there in the middle and set this down where we want it. And give it a nice little squish. Get fingerprints all over it. I think that looks pretty good. I'm trying to get it to go right with the grain of the wood so it looks decent. I think that looks pretty good. We'll let that set up, and this project's pretty much done. Well, I got one more thing left to do to this thing, and I'm going to put it on the back. Is I'm going to brand this thing with my branding tool. So I'm going to heat this thing up. You guys remember I made this tool now. I got my brand on the back of it, so it says KDR. That was a little branding tool that I had made a while back, so when I'm doing a wood project I could brand the back of it to let them know that it was my project. You know, I'm trying to find a place in the garage here somewhere where I can show you guys exactly what this thing looks like. And I'll tell you, this thing turned out pretty daggone nice. I mean, just for an old piece of 1x, I think it turned out pretty good. I mean, we can't forget the wood's going to be extinct. In not too long, it'll be gone. Well, this little project's officially finished. Now, what I'm going to do is, whoever gets this thing, I'm going to put these little plugs in a little baggie and let them go with this piece. There's 4 of them. But don't forget, you can pick these little plugs up. You don't have to make them like I did. You can go right to your craft store and buy them. And I also think Lowe's and Home Depot will still have them. They're just a 3/8 little plug, wood plug. And you can buy them. You don't have to use these ones. I'm going to run this thing on Craigslist under Morgantown Crafts. If somebody's interested in it, you can find it there. I think this thing turned out good. And the really nice thing about it is you can still see the beetle marks through the wood where they went through the bark and ate that tree. And that's what killed the tree. In years to come, you'll be able to explain to the kids that this little beetle actually killed these trees. So this piece of wood would have rotten if we wouldn't have saved it, cut the tree down and saved the wood. This would be rotten. It would just go to waste. So this was a good piece of wood to use for a project. I'd like to tell everybody thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe, leave me thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment if you'd like. Till next time.